Wait for it. Wait for it. And we're live. Hey, all you crazy sci fi and fantasy fans. It's time for your daily dose of shenanigans over here at the Blasters and Blades podcast. Just a couple of nerdy veterans and one chaos coordinator geeking out over our science fiction passions and fantastical fantasies. A place where magic is king, the sky is the limit, and space is the place. We are the podcast that puts the fun in dysfunction. So without further ado, we're going to let our guest, the one, the only Mr. Jacob Holo, introduce himself to our listeners and viewers at home.
Hi, I'm Jacob Holo. I am an author of primarily science fiction, though I do dabble in fantasy. I've co-authored the Gordian Division series with David Weber and done a few other projects, primarily published through Baen Books.
And the stuff you write with your wife is awesome too.
Oh, yes.
That's
quite
the
quite a variety of things that we collaborate together. That's
the fantasy you dabble in, I'm assuming,
in.
or have you written fantasy for Baen as well?
I have not written fantasy for Baen yet. No.
Okay. So the next part of the introduction is how we found them, and I think we found you through your wife first when she came on to talk about, I think it was in Monster Punk Horizon back in the day.
Yep.
And then we realized you were both awesome. And for a while, she was a reoccurring guest, but then life gets in the way sometimes and deadlines happen and oops.
Yeah, there's been a lot of life getting in the way.
Yeah, it was before like that she had to step back, I think, when you went and you got your wrist surgery.
Yeah, I had I was actually that year I had wrist surgery, both wrists.
Ooh.
And I had installed a Dragon dictation software on my computer so I could be editing her book, which was, it came down to the wire on that one. In terms of the release, I'm like dictating my edits, like for the first time using Dragon. And that was very stressful.
Talk about going off the deep end for that one. Wow. Okay. Was that difficult to learn to use Dragon that way? I at least had practice before I had to rely on it.
Yeah, it was, it was the learning curve was steep. And it didn't help that, that particular novel of hers was supposed to land around, say, 80,000 words. And it was 120,000 words when she got it to me. And we just sort of both blasted through it in terms of edits over the course of 2 weeks because, well, we had to meet our release because it'd been up for pre-order for like 3 months.
Yeah, that was back before they gave you extended pre-order times like they will now.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what the penalty would have been back then, but I'm pretty sure we would not have liked it, whatever the penalty was.
So, and you survived. Do you still use Dragon, or is that only when you need to?
No. I tried it out for a while afterward, and just given my personal writing style, and the speed at which I type, I found that the speed that I was producing material was roughly comparable,
right.
But that I was more comfortable with a keyboard. So yeah, for the most part, I just use keyboard nowadays.
So do you use the ergonomic keyboard now? Do you use the clackety ones that are becoming popular that just like make that noise?
I just got a regular old rectangular keyboard and just a pad for my my wrists, and that's as fancy as I get over here.
Some of the supposedly ergonomic keyboard almost split it into two parts, and I'm like, the learning curve on that just looks difficult. I don't know that I would want to do that. I'd rather dictate. Yeah,
I found that after I had my wrist surgery, I really haven't had. Had a few flare-ups, but they, in terms of like wrist pain, there's been other stuff, other life and health things, but in terms of the wrist stuff, it's been fairly mild. So I really haven't found a need to switch my setup. Maybe if I was to go from 2 jobs to 1 job and the 1 job was like all, typing away at the keyboard, then maybe, but for now I'm good. the process seems to be working out.
Well, then keep it up, because I like what you write with Heather, so you can't die for like at least 100 years. I mean, I'm just putting that out there for the universe.
I'll get right on that.
Yeah, talk to the man about the man and see what you can make happen.
Yeah.
All right, so before we get started, we do have to do the religion questions, and I cheated because I know you guys like anime, so I reached out to your lovely wife to get some examples for this one, because I don't watch enough of it. But Mobile Suit Gundam, Ghost in the Shell, or Neon Genesis Evangelion. I probably butchered that again.
So all three of those are fantastic. I love all of them. But I would say of them, my favorite is Neon Genesis Evangelion.
Okay.
I have been known to, after like one of the more recent movies, though I guess recent is a relative term with how long the time, the window between movies was, with the kind of sort of reimagining or retelling of the original series. I've been known to like watch one of those and then like watch videos explaining what is going on in them that are longer than the actual movies. And my wife thinks I'm nuts, and perhaps I am a little bit, but I really love that series. I love the lore. I love the characters. There's definitely things that I can nitpick. I mean, it's sort of like a thing that I enjoy just doing with other franchises, is nitpicking them, but it's sort of out of love. So yeah, I'd definitely say that of those three, Evangelion is the one I go with.
If it makes you feel better, we have had a few book review episodes and movie review episodes where the review lasted longer than the book or the movie. It happens. So you're not alone. And I've watched a few of those myself. So what is it about the lore that you particularly like? Is there anything specific, or just the overall kind of vibe, or what?
So there is a certain vibe to it. And there's I like how they handle the mysteries in it. It just they a lot of stuff in the series and in the movies goes unexplained, but they drop really tantalizing hints here and there, and so it's sort of this fun exercise, not just like for myself, but sort of like as a sort of a pseudo community to try and figure out what the heck is going on in some of these scenes.
Right.
And the and I'd say that Evangelion kind of holds a special place in my heart, because it was one of three sources of influence for way back in the day when I wrote basically a series of giant robot novels. And so there was some Evangelion in there was some Gundam in there, and then there was influence from a game called Xenogears.
Okay.
And so all those just sort of like had a party in my brain, and then blip, this trilogy of novels came out. And I mean, it's my really early stuff. So I think they're fun novels, but I also look back at them and like, there's a little bit of cringe.
Are they still out there for publication?
Oh yeah, they're out there.
Would you tell us what it is, and I'll link to it in the show notes?
Yeah, it's the Seraphim Revival. So it's Bane of the Dead, Throne of the Dead, and Disciple of the Dead.
All right, I will throw a link to those in the show notes, dear listener, and then you can check it out yourself. You had me at giant stompy robots.
Yeah, they're giant stompy robots, fueled by the pilot's own soul, commanded by the society's honored dead, with all the ridiculousness that you would expect from a premise like that. It's
Sounds
a little
glorious.
crazy.
So is that one did you publish that one with Bain, or was that indie published?
That was indie published. That was before that was in my pre-Bain years.
Okay. Is that available in audiobook as well, or just
Yes, it is available in audiobook. So you can Audible, on Amazon, those
perfect?
typical places.
I'm going to have to go spend some of my coffee money today and get those, because that sounds interesting. All right. So because we are polytheistic here at the Blasters and Blades podcast, Castlevania, Full Metal Alchemist, or Delicious in Dungeon?
All right. So I started Full Metal Alchemist, and at a certain point I stopped because I got bored. So Castlevania, in terms of like the Netflix shows, I liked it up to a point, and then I just sort of dropped that one. But Delicious in Dungeon, I really, really enjoyed. I'm looking forward to the next season of that. So yeah, I think the point at which Delicious in Dungeon just really sold me on its premise was it when you had the living suits of armor.
Yes.
And it turned out to be like mollusks.
Yes.
And I just thought that was just such a perfect way to spin on that kind of monster archetype to fit with the, we're going to be cooking monster parts premise. And I'm like, okay, all right, I am now invested. Let's watch the rest of this. So yeah, Delicious in Dungeon.
Yeah, I really like that one as well. Are they actually going to do another season? Because it's been sitting for a while.
It's really hard to tell sometimes. I seem to recall hearing something that a second season was in the works, but honestly, there's so many different franchises and so many states of possible production nowadays that who can really say?
That's fair. Well, the one thing that has this genre has going for it is you don't have to worry that if you wait too long, the actors age out, because you just need voice actors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And all you can do is get something close, or you can write a plot point that justifies why he sounds a little different. Like he got shot in the throat, and when he healed, he just sounds a little funny. Yeah. I mean, there's so easy ways to, or just don't even explain it at all. Just do the switcheroo. That they could do it. I really enjoyed that one. I want to say an author that I know, Virgil Knightley, like, hey, you should check this out. It's amazing. And I went in there kind of skeptical because I'm like, okay, cartoons, really? It was surprisingly good. Like, if that's what anime is, I might give other ones a shot. Did you play Castlevania the game at least?
I don't think I ever played any of the Castlevania games. I'm trying to remember back to my Nintendo and Super Nintendo years. I don't think I ever played any of those. And I know I haven't played any of the anything in the 3D era that's come out.
I'm going to show my age, but I played the Castlevania game on the Game Boy. Did you ever have one of those as a kid, or is that after your time?
I did not have a Game Boy. I think I may have had the Sega equivalent at the time. I don't even remember what it was called. Was it Game Gear?
I think so. That sounds right.
Yeah. Man, I'm dusting away the cobwebs here. You're making me work for it this time.
So you've answered your favorite dinosaur and your favorite zoo animal in the past. So we're going to mix it up a little bit because you've written some pretty cool fantasy creatures in your stuff that you wrote with H.P. Holo and Eddie Sky. Edie, is it Edie or Eddie? I can't remember.
Edie Sky.
Edie, there we go. So what is your favorite fantasy creature? Because you've done lots of research on them for your books.
Yeah. I mean, I guess, the low-hanging fruit is dragon, but
Who doesn't love dragons?
Well, yeah, I mean, but generally speaking, I really like, in fantasy, different kinds of like undead creatures and undead monsters. There's actually, it's kind of taking those themes. Edie and I, we designed a monster for the Blood Knight series called the Terrorgeist. And it's this sort of incorporeal undead that has this fear aura that it generates. And I was really happy with how that particular monster ended up. In terms of like my favorite, there's so many to pick from.
I know that.
I feel like just like going, next door, we have what we call our nerd room, and grabbing the Pathfinder monster books and just thumbing through those until I. It's like, okay, I know it's in here somewhere.
So, okay, do you have a favorite class? Do you like the ones that are sort of based off of Earth creatures, or do you like them when they go all wacky and just make something up completely weird?
Yes.
So you like all of that. You're like,
I mean, that's sort of like one of the things that when Edie and I are working, Edie/Heather, are working on her fantasy stuff, we're talking about monsters, and we're trying to put our own sort of interesting spin on them, and or at least sort of like take an aspect and sort of accentuate it for the purpose of the story. I mean, overall, I really like all flavors of undead. Actually, like if we go to like my Warhammer 40K collection, my first army was Necrons, so space undead, and so then when I started collecting War Machine, I went with Crix, so you have steampunk undead. It's
that's fair. I mean, what is it about the undead that you like so much?
Well, part of it's just the aesthetic, and I think maybe I like green.
That's fair.
It's like you typically have undead, and there's like some sort of like green, like an evil green aura around them, and I think that's one of the reasons why I really like the. Are you familiar with the Overlord series?
I am.
I both really like and really don't like certain aspects of that show, but just the like you have the main character Ainz, and he's the super powerful skeleton undead overlord, lord of death sort of thing. I guess if we're just going to go with, if I have to pick a favorite monster, I'm going to go with a Lich.
Old school classic. I dig it. I thought you might go for the Draugr.
No, I'm gonna stick with Lich. I'm gonna stick with Lich.
Fair. I did like was it iZombie for the zombies, where like she ate the brains to get the memories on that one comedic show that I don't think lasted very long.
Yeah, I remember seeing advertisements for it. I never actually watched it.
It got pulled pretty quickly for some reason. I don't even know if the full season 1 aired. But it's I don't know, the balancing between the macabre and the humorous just appeals to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's definitely a delicate balance, because you don't want to be insensitive to various topics, but I don't know. The idea that it was a zombie was relatively normal, but she'd eat the brains to get their memories. Just, I don't know. Something about it spoke to me. All right. And because we are civilized human beings here at the Blasters and Blades podcast, we are no longer knuckle dragging troglodytes. Coffee or tea, and how do you take it?
So I hardly drink either, but I would say that I will occasionally partake of some of my wife's coffee, so I get it the way that she has it, so that like if I'm taking a sip, like 2/3 of the sip is like caramel syrup. So I'm like, and I'm like, I'm just like, drinking it from the straw, and I'm like expecting to have, coffee flavor, and it's just this slug of sugar, It's like,
sounds about right. And because she's almost like ADHD in her mannerisms, I bet it doesn't even affect her, does it? She's just like,
no, I don't think it does.
I've met people like that. Oh. So we've talked to you in the past about like how you started writing and all of that. And since you've been on before, we won't go there. I will say I was shocked for Fantasy Creatures you didn't go for the Cat Girl, since you wrote a whole book series, or you started a book series. You got the first one already out with Soul Blazers.
Well, I mean, yes, those sorts of creatures are, the various variations on humans and whatnot are fun to deal with, but I've always felt drawn to the villainous evil side of things. So
hopefully your shrink is not listening to this episode.
Well, it's I just find really good, interesting villains. Just fun to watch, fun to read. Typically, if I have the first thing that I'm going to complain about something will be, I didn't like the villain. That's probably that, or the physics. Because of my engineering background, this would be one of my first two complaints: is that either the physics is wrong, or the villain's motivation didn't make any sense.
I've seen some of I watched some of the episodes, because some of the colleges will film their classes and they'll like upload it to YouTube, BitChute, Rumble, something like that. And my favorite was one of these guys was doing an intro to quantum physics, and he's basically like, I'm confused, I don't understand it, none of my peers understand quantum physics, and by the time we're done, you'll be as confused as the rest of us. And I thought about that. I'm like, I really should have sent that to you. You'd probably have enjoyed it.
I probably would. I have been known to read books about string theory for fun.
Was it Michio Kaku, I think is the guy's name? I've read a lot of his stuff.
Yeah,
he breaks it down for the layperson, though. It's not written in like technical jargon.
Right. Yeah. He definitely is a great communicator for those really kind of brain racking ideas. I really enjoy his books.
We've tried to get him on, but we're small potatoes compared to him. So I'm not even sure I make it past his publicist secretary when my emails go. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But the dude's doing good work. He's also a futurist, which I like, which is basically, if you don't know, dear listener, it's when they take known scientific theories and then figure where we are in tech, what's being researched that maybe not be public knowledge, and they extrapolate forward on what they think the future will be. I am pleasantly surprised at how positive most futurists are about how things will turn around. No doom and gloom, because that would be depressing if even the scientists are like, no, the sky's really falling. Yeah,
I don't think the sky's falling. I mean, there's definitely going to be bumpy patches, but and I think a lot of the bumps are going to come from the intersection between technology and society, and just the speed at which technology is advancing, and how our society is adapting at a delayed rate. I mean, I feel like we're just like kind of socially just starting to get social media figured out, and now AI is coming down the pipe, and oh boy.
Yeah, and then the changes are happening faster and faster, it seems, as far as, in the grander scheme of things with tech. The information travels faster, which means that, you can't really inoculate people from the morons that are out speaking first and fast and loudest. And so by the time someone who comes along who actually understands the topic and is talking about it, they've already formed their opinions from, the bozo who thinks the earth's really flat, or, whatever other weird conspiracies are out there. Although my favorite flat earth joke are the ones that talk about it's not real because cats would have already pushed us off the edge. Because they've got, the standard cat jokes about
that's a cute one.
Or the NASA one. It's not flat. We checked. So obviously you get into the science, but you write more than just the science of science fiction. So when you're prepping to do your writing, is there any like ritual that you do, like what kind of stuff you engage with content wise to prepare yourself for various projects, or does it depend?
I mean, it depends on the project. I mean, I do like to explore, whatever, topics are being touched on by the project, both from a science fact and a science fiction standpoint, see what's out there, and sort of, explore that part of the literary and, entertainment landscape. So like way back when David and I were conceptualizing the Gordian Division series, I did look at some real world theories about how time travel could potentially actually work. We basically decided that none of those really would work for the kind of story that we wanted to tell, and so we made up a our own set of make believe physics for how the time travel worked in our particular setting, and from a like the literary side of things, there's certain aspects of time travel as it's typically depicted in media that generally bothers me. and so and that kind of deals with what enforces the sequence of events. And what I mean by that is that you have, say, like one manipulation of the timeline, and then you have a second one, and then you have a third one. It's like, well, what is governing, quote unquote, when these things happen, and in what order do they happen? And normally the answer is, well, it's happening in the order that you're watching the movie or reading the book. So in our setting, there is actually a quote unquote physical principle that determines the sequence that time travel manipulations actually affect the timeline.
So with your understanding of time travel, does it create alternate timelines and alternate parallel realities at every branch point, like Einstein posited, or you kind of keep it all in one linked sort of helix of time?
So the Gordian Division series, it is a multiverse setting. So there is branching of timelines, but individual timelines have a certain degree of elasticity and resiliency. Okay. So you can go back and muddle with things to a certain degree, and the timeline will essentially sort of smooth itself out. There's kind of a like a tensile strength, you might say. But if the change is drastic enough and at a weak enough point in the timeline, then a branch will occur. And so that happens a few times in our 6-book series. And it normally involves some sort of catastrophic sort of a existential threat that the heroes have to deal with.
So before, after the commercial, we'll come back. We'll definitely be talking nothing but the Gordian division and the new book, Thermopylae Protocol, which is coming out, which I love the name, by the way. But since you like the time travel stuff, did you like the movie Timeline? That's where the archaeologists go back in time to the 100 Years War, and they end up bringing gunpowder and like saving the keep with technology that was available at the time. He just understood it more than most.
Mm-hmm. I have not seen that movie.
Okay. I think it's based on a Michael Crichton novel. I could be wrong.
I think you're right. I haven't seen the movie, so I can't really say, unfortunately.
All right, I will find out and link that to the show notes, dear listener. But it's the movie is really good. I enjoyed it. And what about Fringe? Did you ever watch that TV show?
Friends?
Fringe, Fringe.
Fringe. No.
It's kind of like X-Files meets Parallel Dimensions, and the premise is this guy's son dies, so he opens a portal to another dimension so he could steal that version of his son, so he doesn't have to grieve his son's loss, which of course has ripple effects, and eventually the realities start to merge, and it causes all kinds of weird stuff, and their whole organization's trying to prevent it. It's like X-Files meets Parallel Dimensions. It's really good. It didn't get as many seasons as it should, but all the good shows I feel like that I get addicted or that I get interested in, they get shut down early, it seems. I'm almost afraid to like a show anymore. I'm like, oh, that
I know what you mean.
I don't know if it's because the film industry just sucks, or I just like too weird things that most people don't. I don't, maybe somewhere in the middle.
I don't know. I mean, you look at what I think Disney's probably a good example with like Star Wars and Marvel, and just how much money they've got to be dumping into all these various projects. And it's like, I like, see the various, slates of trailers come up, and I'm just like not interested in any of it these days.
I'm with you. I've been going back and redoing a lot of the shows from the early aughts when I was in college and too busy to watch things. And then some of the classics, like I went and I bought Battlestar Galactica, the original. Unfortunately, I ordered a version of it that had all of it in just all the DVDs, but they weren't broken up by episode. It just went hours upon hours, like one after the other, which makes it really hard to stop, because you have to remember I'm on X CD at the X hour mark, and it's just like I'm just gonna rebuy it. And the case was beautiful though, but I'm gonna rebuy it where they break it down by episode, so I can just like watch an episode here or there. I want to watch the original. I liked the reproduction, but I've been going back to the older stuff just because one, it's finished and you can work your way through everything you missed.
I liked the new version up to a point. There was a point where they, I think they got a little bit too deep into, at that time, present day politics. Because there were a lot of things that were kind of like they were trying to say things about the war in Iraq, and I'm like, I'm here for the colonials versus the Cylons. I come on, guys.
No, totally with you on that one. Okay, so
at that point, I really just lost interest.
That's fair. So you don't really have a process that's like where you unwind to let your mind rest, or you just you base your prep kind of stuff by the project?
Well, I mean, are we talking about like before I start working, or like
before you, like if you're between projects and you're looking for your next idea or whatever, do you have like a creative process?
Well, I typically have more I typically have like a queue that I'm like, okay, what's next on the queue that I need to work on?
Okay. So it's been a while since you've had this problem.
So yeah, so like I have like there's the Universe trilogy that David and I are David and Tom Pope are contracted to write. So there's that, and then there's like a bunch of stuff that I want to do with my wife. There's stuff that I want to do solo, and it's just like, I don't have enough time.
That's fair.
So typically the in-between time is just sort of like recuperating between projects.
Is there anything specific you do to recuperate, like mind-numbing brain candy?
Video games are typically involved.
As one does.
You know, my more recent video game time has been spent on Helldivers 2.
Excellent choice. The one-liners from that game are hilarious.
Monster Hunter Wilds and Xenoblade X. And I'll probably, at some point, I'll probably be picking up Doom: The Dark Ages. And I never played Oblivion, but with the remaster, it is calling to me, but I'm also like, I already have too many games that are just too much of a time suck.
I loved Oblivion. It was one of my first open world RPGs that I played on a console. So are you like Xbox, PlayStation, or PC Master Race kind of guy?
PlayStation, though, also have a Switch, so that's where play the various Xenoblade games.
Now, did you get into the was it the Nintendo Wii type games where it's physical action paired with the games?
I did a little bit of that. Did a little bit with the Xbox Kinect as well, but not a whole lot.
Yeah, I never really got into it. If I wanted to play tennis, I'd just go play tennis. I don't really need to
Though I will say that I have started incorporating shadow boxing into my workout routine, and so I've so maybe there's a motion game or like a VR or something that might catch my interest someday, that lets me flail around and burn calories while having a good time.
Bring back Mike Tyson Punch Out in 3D. Do you remember that one? Did you ever play?
Yeah, I remember that one. Yeah,
I used to love that game. Although when I was playing initially, we had to you had to walk the 2 miles to get to the arcade and bring your quarters. So yeah, it was a little bit of a stretch. But all right, so next we're going to pause for a moment while we shamelessly shill for the man, and then when we come back, we're going to talk about his Gordian Knot division, and specifically the newest book that's coming out.
Southside thief Kai Fletcher thought he could go straight until he couldn't. And when his last job goes wrong, he finds himself stowed away in a starship belonging to an alien crime syndicate. Forced into servitude to pay for his passage off-world, Kai makes a deal. He helps them rob the most powerful alien empire in known space, and he gets to go home. Easy peasy. Until it isn't. Planning the heist, Kai discovers the Empire has stolen ancient alien technology that threatens all other sentient species. He's never been a good guy, but even he has limits. Hunted by both the Empire and the Syndicate, he manages to get on the wrong side of everyone in the galaxy who wants the discovery for themselves. Kai just wanted to get back to Chicago, but instead, he's become the galaxy's most wanted. This sci-fi thrill ride from Michael LeVois and Aethon Books. Available at Amazon.com and Audible.
You want to know how you know that's not real? That it's a fictional book? Somebody wanted to get back to Chicago. LeVois is a good dude, though. He writes really, really well, but he should have set that anywhere but Chicago. I'm just saying. All right. So since we've got you here to talk about the Thermopylae Protocol, which is the newest book in the Gordian division. I'm going to throw the cover up for the Thermopylae Protocol. How did you come up with the series concept before we get to this particular book?
So the series concept actually came from David way back in the day. David had a conversation with Jim Bain, who was the owner of Bain Books at the time before he passed away. And he basically told David that, hey, all of your books that you're writing for me seem to be spawning series. Have you thought about planning a series, from the start rather than just kind of winging it? And Dave was like, oh, that's an interesting idea. And so then he presented Jim Bain with 10 series concepts, of which one was Honor Harrington. Another one was Safehold. There were various others in there. And one of them was essentially the kernel idea for the Gordian Division series. So fast forward a number of years, and David and I, we were at a Chili's with our wives, and it was Heather's birthday, I think. And so we were just talking and whatnot, and Dave was like, you know what, I think we should write a book together. And this is the book I think we should write together, is basically what he said. So after I could talk again, I said, yes, I think this is a wonderful idea, David. And so we started brainstorming, kind of fleshing out the initial concept. And it was so the concept that he had was sort of like a way to kind of kickstart or kick off a larger series. So the first book is really like the heroes coming together, and they have to solve this knot in time, the Gordian knot that has entangled these various timelines. It's an existential threat that's going to destroy multiple universes, and so they have to go back in time, and change the past in order to save the future. It is sort of the very short version of it. There are also some very mean people with some very heavily armed time machines that would like them to not do that, because if they succeed, it means that their particular reality goes away. So you have these essentially these two historians in a shot-up time machine versus a fleet of heavily militarized time warships.
So in your world concept, if you are in an alternate dimension because you've got a time machine, when something changes so your time doesn't exist anymore, do you cease to exist, or do you just continue to exist in the new timeline wherever you happen to be?
So you can continue to exist. You're not going to go away. But if you're like in the timeline when it goes poof, well, you're going to go poof too.
Okay.
But,
so I didn't.
Yeah, we do have a few characters who are from essentially terminated points in the space-time continuum that are still hanging out with the main cast.
Okay, that has to that's like your planet just got bombed, kind of Alderaan levels of suck for those people.
Yes. So some of them have. I mean, it's it's a David Weber series. Some of these characters have some pretty deep scars.
So I was under the impression that you met David through writing with him. So you were actually already friends before you started writing together?
Yes.
So how did that happen? Was it just because you guys live close together and you're like a super fan, or?
So I think this was, I want to say 2014. around that point. So my wife, Heather, she was diagnosed with melanoma. She had an excision. She had a lymph node biopsy. They had cut through muscle. She's recovering from that. And by the way, she has not had a recurrence of the cancer since. So
awesome.
So all signs are that it was caught early and got all of it out. So she's recovering from that, and I'm literally, like holding my arm out so that she can like lower herself onto the couch or get up, because it's sort of like, I guess was sort of like recovering from hernia surgery for her, where they had to cut, and she was getting stir crazy. She had some real bad cabin fever, and so she's like, hey, look, there's this local convention. It's like half an hour away. Let's go to that. It's like, I don't know. You should stay home and rest and recuperate. It's like, David Weber's going to be there. You can go have your copy of In Death Ground signed. Like, okay, you win. So I get my dog-eared copy of In Death Ground, and we drive out there, and they got a table set up for David. There's part of his fan club there, and so he's signing books and whatnot. And so I plop down my copy, and he says, "Whoa," which by the way, this was the shortest exchange that we have ever had. was just him saying that one word. And so he signed it, and we stepped aside. We're talking to the fan club, and it's like, "Oh, you write too? Well, you need to talk to Sharon, David's wife." And we're like, "No, we don't. We don't need to bother David Weber's wife." They dragged us over to her, sat us down. We talked to her for about an hour, and then she said, "You know what? We should meet. All four of us should meet up for lunch sometime." Okay. So we met up for lunch, and 4 hours late, this was like a couple weeks later, and that lunch lasted for 4 hours.
I believe it.
And then we met again, and became really good friends.
So it's really the ladies' fault. We'll blame them.
I don't know if fault is the right word.
So at what point in that cycle of friendship did it get to where we're writing the Gordian protocol? Was that much later, or did that happen pretty quickly?
Yeah, that was a couple years later.
Okay.
I mean, we certainly, we talk about, our various different, he would talk about his projects. I would talk about mine. I would ask him for advice on things. And I had just gotten I had a manuscript rejected, and I had asked him, if he would be willing to read the manuscript and to tell me where he thinks I can, where I need to improve. And he's like, yeah. But then that, and he was perfectly willing to do that. But then that sort of changed. He said that instead of doing that, why don't we just write a novel together? And it sounds like a really good deal to me.
And was that the Gordian Division book one, or did you start with something else with him? Because I know
that was Gordian Division. That was the Gordian Protocol, which is the first book in the series.
Okay. I wasn't sure because I know you've written some of the Honor Harrington stuff. Which ones came first?
Well, we are in the kind of planning stages for our first Honorverse novel together, and I'm actually working on the detailed outline for that before I start working on the first draft. That is my immediate next project, is to start working on that Honorverse novel.
Okay, so do each of these, I know we've got the cover up, and I'll flip through all of them in a second. Mm-hmm. Do each of these Thermopylae the Gordian Division series, do all of the novels stand alone? Because a lot of trad pub will do that, or are they all so interlocked you have to start with one?
So I think for the most part, each book stands on its own pretty well. I would say that the Thermopylae Protocol of all the books, you will definitely get a lot more out of it if you've read at least, say, like one or two of the previous books. But even that one, we set up so that it is a standalone adventure, and that any key characters or key concepts are reintroduced to the reader. But it does form a sort of there is an overall arc that is happening. It's sort of, a lot of times it's just sort of like happening in the background of whatever primary adventure is going on. But there are some threads that do, connect each of the books together. But I would say that, say like 95% plus of what the reader is going to be experiencing in a book, it's standalone, and you can enjoy. If one of the book catches your eye, go for it. You'll do fine.
So, is this the last book in the series? Because there's 6 of them out.
Yep, this is the last one. This is the big finale. Goes out with a bang.
I'm going to go through. This is the first one, which is the Gordian Protocol, which he mentioned, and I love. This is my favorite cover of all of them.
Yeah, it's one of the heavily armed time machines, just kind of temporally porting over into the past.
Yeah, it just the fuzziness around the edges where you can kind of see the modern houses, and then porting, opening, like, I don't know, I'm a sucker for portal stories. So, okay. And then this is the second book in the series, the Valkyrie Protocol, another awesome name. You guys are really good at these names. I'm digging them.
And you've got basically debris from an imploded timeline there. little pieces of Earth, an Earth kind of just floating around in the void there.
And it just looks amazing. And then we've got the Janus Files, which is, I think you've talked to us on this one years ago.
I believe so.
I think that was season 3. I recognize the cover.
So the file books, you can kind of think of it as sort of like 2 sub-series. You have the protocol books and you have the file books. The protocol books are alternate history, military sci-fi, big existential threats. The file books are more tightly focused, more personal stories. They're crime mysteries. They're police procedurals primarily. And typically, with one exception, with a little dash of time travel and trans-dimensional what's going on.
Okay, and then we have the Weltall file, which is another of the sub-series. I like the police bot. Gives me some RoboCop vibes, but like cooler like aesthetic, because it's like RoboCop's a product of the 80s, so it's limited. Whereas this one has that cool vibe, though. I'm really digging it. Then we have the Dyson file, which is the other file book. I like the gun she has.
That particular character, it's very appropriate that she would have a sidearm that kind of looks about the size of her forearm. She would absolutely have a gun that big.
And then we have obviously the Thermopylae Protocol, which is the one we're about. I really like the way this ship looks, the way they handled the light for the propulsion. These little spiky things that just give it that collar look. I don't know if it actually does anything, but it looks cool. Yeah,
there's a little bit of artistic license in how the ship is portrayed versus how it appears, how it's described in the book itself. But I think it's a very solid artistic rendition of a key event in the book, which is that particular ship dropping nukes on the moon. And there's a very good reason why it's very angry at the moon.
And the ship definitely with the masthead a look on the front, it almost looks like it could be an animal if you're looking at it face first, like that seafaring kind of vibe, which I really like. I've seen for a project I'm working on a lot of mastheads from like Viking eras where they've got the figure on it, and it kind of gives me those vibes with the way they did the front of the ship. I mean, obviously we're seeing the back of it, but I'm really digging it. The artist that you guys picked for this, I'm loving all of the covers. How many of them are framed on your walls? Because I would have all of them.
I do not have any of them framed on our walls, though. We do have the books out on display. So we have like a little corner where we've kind of, where we're just like racking up the various books that are coming out. And whenever Heather and I think that we're not being productive enough, we'll like go there and look, and it's like, yeah, we're doing good. We're doing all right.
And then you light a candle to your sanity.
That's a lot of work there. We've written a lot of books. Calm down. Stop beating yourselves up.
So the art itself, take the cover stuff off of it. Just the art alone is kind of frame-worthy. I'm impressed.
Yeah, I really like the artwork on that particular cover. Mm-hmm.
So can you give us the Reader's Digest, pitch for this book for people that aren't familiar with the series?
So yeah, you've got essentially two superpowers that are in play. You have Siskov and the admin, and Siskov is a mature post-scarcity society. They have it together. The admin is starting to enter its post-scarcity era, and they got some rough edges. They're more militaristic, more xenophobic, but the two are, they've kind of hashed out some of their major differences, and they're starting to cooperate and starting to enforce time travel and transdimensional laws, which time travel and transdimensional travel are very, very dangerous in this setting, just given the nature that, new timelines can be branched out, that timelines can be extinguished, and all that sort of stuff. So the novel begins with basically an industrial ship carrying, its cargo of self-replicating machines blows up on its way to Mercury. In fact, this mission was to go to Mercury and start tearing apart the planet to begin constructing a Dyson swarm. And so they're like sifting through the wreckage, and it's like, this ship is 40 years older than it should be. Something's going on here. And they eventually come to the conclusion that someone stole the ship, basically pulled it out of that timeline, went to a different one, did something with all of that industrial tech for 40 years. And so there's basically there's some sort of conspiracy going on. They've had a lot of time to prepare. They've prepared whatever they've had a lot of times to prepare something very nasty. And so you have the two sides, Siskov and the admin, collaborating to track down, figure out what is going on and to stop it in time. Unfortunately, in the middle of these two organizations starting to gear up to investigate this, the leader on the admin side is assassinated. And lots of finger pointing starts happening. And so we actually have the detectives from the file novels are brought in to get to the bottom of that particular thread. And so you have the main cast from the protocol books trying to track down what happened to this industrial ship. And then you also have the detectives from the file books trying to figure out who killed the basically the director general of the admin's time travel enforcement organization.
Now, was it always intended to have the series within a series vibe going on? Was that planned from the beginning?
There were loose plans for that, but some of it did evolve as David and I, sort of organically, as David and I worked on, subsequent books. Initially, I had thought that we were just going to kind of stick to the protocol side of things. But then at one point, David made two statements. One was, well, if we keep going that route, we're eventually going to run out of apocalypses to throw at our heroes. I'm like, okay, fair. And the other one was that he really wanted to do a police procedural style story set within this setting. I'm like, oh, okay. So we did.
Only David would be worried about like not having enough horrible things like that to throw at your people. Like that sounds like a very David problem. I'm just saying.
Yeah, well, I was over the course of this series placed on a universe-destroying diet. I was told I was not allowed to destroy any more timelines for at least, was it 3 books or 2 books? I actually forget at this point, but for a certain number of books, I was not allowed to annihilate entire realities.
Yeah, I could see why. So are there going to be follow-on series in this universe that is the Gordian Protocol, or are you guys walking away from it as wrapping the bag and calling it good?
I feel that the Thermopylae Protocol is a very fitting bookend to the series. Certainly, there are more stories that could be told in the series. In fact, I have rough outlines for some of them, but there's only so much time and energy, and at present, the Universe is calling. You know what I'm saying?
You don't want them rolling pods on you. I'm told that's a bad thing.
So that's where I'm shifting my focus, at least for the immediate future. It's a great setting. I really enjoyed writing in it, writing with David in it. The detective characters are some of my favorite characters ever as an author to write. You got Detective Isaac Cho and Special Agent Susan Cantrell, who, at least an artist rendition of them, shows up on the cover of Dyson and Janice. Yeah, I'd say that. Yeah, it sort of looks like them. Yeah, close enough for a cover. But
this is very Time Cops vibe. If you're familiar with that, was it Jean-Claude Van Damme did Time Cops?
I did see that movie. Yes. But there's some of my favorite characters to write ever. They're just for me as an author. They're 2 characters that really just bounce off of each other well, and to a certain degree, the scenes just write themselves whenever I've got 2 of them in a scene together. Because you have Isaac, who's very much the by the book detective, and then you have Susan, who is the counterterrorism specialist with the very powerful synthetic body. And she's used to blowing up her problems.
As one does.
So they're just a really fun pair to write. And they do get some time in the limelight in the Thermopylae Protocol, along with the main cast from the previous two protocol books. So with Thermopylae, we're kind of merging the two tracks back together.
Okay. So are there aliens in this universe, since you talked about one of the races was xenophobic?
There aren't. There's the potential for alien races in the setting, but there aren't any in these books.
So when you said xenophobic, do you mean people that they dislike people
outside cultures?
Okay. I was gonna say, because outside timelines could be a cultural thing too, if you knew that they existed, right? Like,
oh yeah, I mean they so that's actually one of the big things that is causing friction between these two societies. So Siskov, again, very mature post-scarcity society. AIs, going around as, full-on citizens. They have an AI as their president. And they have very mature use of self-replicating industrial technology. The admin has had some very bad experiences with AIs in the past, and basically views them as non-citizens, as hardware. So you have a segment of the Siskov populace that is essentially considered non-entities by the other faction, and they view what the admin does with AIs as a form of slavery. So there's a little bit of tension going on there. It also doesn't help that there's been a rash of terrorist attacks in the admin, and the terrorists seem to be utilizing advanced Siskov technology. So there's a lot of reasons why, once the one character gets killed off, that the two sides stop cooperating, and tensions get ratcheted up quite high.
Were there any surprises as you outline? I know for the most part, David's talked about you guys pretty much outline, because you have to if you're working with other people. Mm-hmm. But sometimes when you outline and then you just are writing in the moment, stuff happens and you're like, oh, this is way cooler than whatever the outline says. So were there any moments that surprised you when you were writing this final novel for the series?
I can't really recall any, but then again, I have been known to joke that I don't actually write novels. I design them and then I construct them. Okay. So my outlines tend to be, so at a certain point, Dave and I will agree on an outline. And then when I go to write, my portion of the first draft, which was the bulk of the novel in this project, I will then take that outline and I will make an even more detailed outline that's basically a scene-by-scene breakdown. And so I'm just basically pulling up the next scene. I'm going through its bullet list. I'm writing it out, get to the scene after that, pull up its bullet list, go through it. I mean, occasionally there are points where I'll come to something and I'll have to stop and think. It's like, okay, well, didn't really think this through in enough detail, need to kind of, massage a few elements, but it's more problem solving. Right. At that point, it's like, okay, well, didn't really, there's a wrinkle here and I need to iron it out in some manner. It's normally, rather than there being like full-on surprises. It's more like, I didn't think this through enough.
Okay. So you've created a lot of alternate versions of the timeline in this series. Are there any of them that you would want to live in if you and Heather could just pack up and go?
Oh yeah. The Siskov is a pretty sweet place to live. It's it's sort of like it has some similarities with the kind of optimistic future that you see portrayed in like old school Star Trek.
Okay.
So yeah, that would be the place to live. And there's though, yeah, Cisco.
Are any of these timelines post-Terran in that, we've colonized outside of just Earth?
Oh yeah. In fact, most of the Janus file takes place on a megastructure that floats through the Saturn atmosphere.
Okay.
Most of the Veltal file takes place on the moon, and the moon in this setting has been terraformed, so it's got an atmosphere and beaches, and they've actually changed the rotation so it has days that match up with Earth's days, which it's like yeah, it's the kind of thing that this society can do. It's like, yeah, we didn't really want to have like month-long days, so we just changed the moon's rotational speed.
As one does.
The Dyson file again takes place in and around Saturn. So yeah, and there's they've also it's touched on a bit in the Gordian protocol that Siskov has started colonization of Alpha Centauri, and they've done that by basically sending out robotic ships that have then built a small industrial base over there and a big receiving dish. And then they're basically taking people's neural maps and shooting them over to Alpha Centauri via giant laser. That's their method of colonizing Alpha Centauri.
So in that approach, would the people that were scanned drop dead on this end and appear over there, or would there just be clones of them?
So for how they're handling that, they're basically, unless they have gone through the legal hurdles to have their connectome, their neural map copied, there can only be like one runtime at a time. So that's sort of like fire and forget. And so they shoot them off and then they clear the buffers on that side.
So they would shoot off here, their body here would be gone, and then.
Well, for those particular types of individuals, they would be post-organic, so they would have already they would already be in a synthetic body, and in fact, a lot of the post-organic individuals get around by having multiple physical bodies at various locations, but their active runtime is just lasered from location to location.
Okay, that's an interesting approach.
Yeah.
Whose idea was that part of it? Was that yours?
That was mine. Yeah.
That sounded like a you thing.
This is the crazy engineer coming up with crazy ideas.
I could see that. So on a scale of history teacher to serial killer, what do your outlines of the various timelines look like?
I'm sorry, what?
On a scale of history teacher to serial killer, what do your timeline outlines look like? Because that's a lot to track for you guys. The serial killer vibe, I'm picturing the guy standing at the cork board with like the red strings connecting everything to everywhere.
Jeez. I mean, in terms of the historical details, most of that, like 95% plus was David.
Okay.
When we would get to the, like the 30th century era stuff, a lot of that would be my work. So sort of leveraging, my engineering background versus his historian background.
That makes sense. So in your world, is future travel possible? Because obviously the ones in the future are coming back, but could someone from this timeline go forward? Because
Nope.
for them, it hasn't happened yet?
Nope.
So if
So we have, going back to what I mentioned about certain aspects of time travel stories, me not liking them.
Okay.
So there is a master clock. It's called the true present. And so the way it works in our setting is that the true present is always moving forward 1 second per second. And there's essentially potential beyond that, but there nothing has, it hasn't been like formed yet. So there's sort of like this wall in the timeline that's slowly moving forward as the timeline is being formed. So if you go back in time and you hang out there for, say, a month, and then you come back to the true present, it's a month later.
But you could also go back to a second after you left on your end, but technically be in the past then.
Yeah, you would be in the past.
So in this one, assuming if that's a hard rule, that means if someone from the past comes back, you couldn't get on their ship and then go forward with them. You would just cease to be?
So we can't have characters go back and no, you can temporally replicate stuff. And in fact, that's a big part of the Valkyrie protocol, because there's a timeline that gets created where they essentially have time machines going back and forth, replicating like industrial material and whatnot. And that is the cornerstone of their industry, is essentially using time machines to replicate stuff. And that's how they achieve their post-scarcity state. However, there are problems with this because it is essentially sort of causing a lot of strain on their timeline. And there's bad things are about to happen.
That's the danger of time travel. It's such a fun concept to go to all the cool places you've ever wanted to see in the past.
Yeah.
But if you start trying to logic it out, you'll break your brain. If you try to be as logical and like you try to cover all at a certain point in time, you have to accept you're waving your hands in the air.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of things in our setting, a lot of the classic things in time travel can be done in our setting, but there are really good reasons why the characters are really keen on people not doing these things because of how dangerous they are. Which results in, the climax of the Valkyrie protocol, which involves fleets of time-traveling warships and a time-traveling battle station firing time-traveling nuclear-tipped missiles. It's pretty epic, if I do say so myself.
I kind of want them to turn this into an anime just so I could watch that scene. So, I mean, it would be too expensive to make live action, but I could see them like an anime making this work. So is there, for this series, obviously you brought in the file and the protocol characters, so all of them get a little bit of screen time in the conclusion. Mm-hmm. Do you have, out of all of the characters in this series, do you have favorites?
Yeah, I have favorites.
Can you tell us, or are you afraid you're gonna hurt their feelings?
No, it's Isaac and Susan. They're my favorite characters.
Do you have a favorite bad guy?
I like a lot of them.
Okay. you just mentioned you like the bad guys, like you like to see them well developed. So
yeah, but see, I can't really talk about most of them because who the villain actually is, it's a murder, like Janus File is a murder mystery. I can't tell you who the murderer is, even though I really like that villain.
Okay, that's fair. We don't want spoilers. We want them to read the books.
But yeah, I really like the villain in the Janus File. I really like the villain in Veltal. I think the primary villain in Thermopylae, I think he might be the most fun of them. I mean, he has some really great scenes toward the end of the book, and I guess one of the things is that in the file books, because they're police procedurals, you're seeing almost everything from Isaac's and Susan's perspective, and as they're receiving clues, you the reader are receiving clues, and at a certain point they're like, hey, we figured it out, and then that's sort of like the warning to the reader. It's like, okay, place your bets. You've had all the information we're going to give you. Now we're going to reveal who it was, and that's essentially the first time that you get like a scene from the villain's perspective. Whereas in the Thermopylae Protocol, we're much more free to have the villain chewing up the scenery a bit, so to speak. So he's got some really fun scenes that I think readers will find very entertaining. He's a good love to hate villain, I think.
Okay, so my last question for you before we give you a chance to see if there's anything you feel like we need to know is, obviously, like a book like this, you have to get your rules for science, the rules for the time travel correct before you can even start writing. So Is that more David Weber's history training coming up with all these ideas, or your physics background coming up with all of the rules that you guys created for your premise?
So it was a collaborative process. Like I said, we did look at various sort of kind of exotic real world physics theories about how time travel maybe kind of sort of could be made to work. None of them really fit with the kind of story that we wanted to tell and how we wanted to kind of mechanically tell it. Because if you need like a cosmic string with the mass energy of like an entire galaxy, well, we really can't go to the shelf and grab one of those, which is, I think, one of the theories that I came across. Anyway, so what David laid out was essentially kind of what he wanted the toolkit to be capable of doing. And then I kind of worked on the nuts and bolts on how the toolkit would work. So that's where I came up with the chronoton particle, how this particular particle behaved, how the technology would interact with that particle in order to achieve time travel, and how the various parts and pieces of that tech would work and interact with each other.
So, okay, so it's all hands on deck, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very much a collaboration. Though we were basically handling different parts of it. Again, his historian, crazy engineer.
Absolutely. So the hard part of a series like this is a lot of the questions I have would be spoilers, and why I don't care about spoilers. Most of my readers send me hate mail when we do spoilers on episodes. So is there anything about the Gordian division, or specifically the Thermopylae protocol, that we didn't ask that you think like they absolutely need to know this before they buy this book?
I think we're good.
Okay. I think it sounds really, really interesting. So you finished writing the Thermopylae protocol. So before we start doing the wrap up, what are you writing now? Because you said you've got a really full dance card right now, and I'm curious what's next.
Yeah. So I am working on the detailed outline for the first Edward Saganami novel set in the Universe, set about 300 years before Honor Harrington. So Edward Saganami, basically one of the paragons of the Royal Manticore Navy, and so it's got a 3-book series planned. It's going to be his life and times, and it's no spoiler because it's in one of the books already. His heroic death. That scene already exists, so we know how he dies.
It's kind of hard to have a spoiler when it's already been written.
Yeah. I mean, it's already been written. In fact, that's part of the that the Royal Manticore Navy's tradition is to show what they call I think it's called the last viewing. They show a recording from Saganami's final stand and sacrificial death, and basically is saying that you too may be called upon to make this sort of sacrifice, sort of like the way that they frame it. But starting to dig into that. There's a few projects that Heather/Edie and I depends which project we're talking about, which persona of my wife I'm dealing with. But we got a few things that we're working on there.
They're all fun, though. Pardon? They're all fun.
Yes. Yeah. But been doing some. She's deep into her next book, but I've been, working alongside her, helping her smooth some stuff out. So, and that's going really well. And we've, got various concepts, but nothing that's really mature enough to talk about yet.
That's fair.
Because we don't really want to talk about them until it's probably going to be a while before I can get to some of those projects, given, I have the 3-book commitment with the Universe right now. So kind of got to do that.
There's been a couple times where I was reading some of Heather's books. I'm like, oh, Heather. But then I keep reading because they're good. So they're a lot of fun. So the Harrington Honorverse books that you're writing, how does that line up with the Star Harrington series that David's writing with Jean, I think her name was? I'm drawing a blank. Taldor, I think.
Jane Linskold?
Yeah, there we go.
So those are earlier in the timeline.
Okay.
And they primarily focus around, it's a younger protagonist, and kind of the interaction between humans and the empathic tree cats local to Sphinx. Whereas the Saganami series will be, I think, stylistically, even though they appear earlier in the timeline, they're going to be stylistically similar to, say, like the first few Honor Harrington novels. So yeah, that's kind of the vibe that we're targeting with these books.
So, was it harder or easier when you already knew how the character was going to end writing them? Because it's sometimes, I think, a fresh slate can be fun, but when you're writing into an existing formula with these character that already has lore, Which one do you prefer?
I mean, I guess I generally prefer having a freer hand.
Okay.
But obviously, you know, I'm stepping into an established series. And one of the things that I am very, very, very adamant about is, you know, respecting, you know, what has come before. And so there are, you know, David, Tom, and I are, you know, being very careful in making sure that whatever we write and create is integrated as seamlessly as possible into all the existing literature, be it, you know, one short story in, you know, an anthology, or, you know, the Travis Long novels or whatever. And that can be a lot of work, but it's also rewarding work. One of the reasons why I feel very strongly about those sorts of things, and why I get kind of upset with how slapdash certain franchises have been treated, is that my view on it is that so when you as a reader or a viewer are like experiencing, say, like a science fiction property, you are performing work. You have all sorts of stuff that you have to kind of, you know, mentally ingest and keep track of, all sorts of made up stuff. And that's work. But the promise is, you know, the kind of unspoken, you know, agreement is that, yes, it's going to be work, but we're going to make it worth your while. So that's kind of, you know, what I feel as a reader. I'm, you know, as a writer, I'm telling the reader, yes, I'm going to ask you to do this work to understand the setting and these characters and all this stuff, all this made up stuff, but I'm going to do my, you know, darndest to make it worth your while. So when you have people disrespecting franchises by playing, you know, fast and loose with what has come before, setting aside just, you know, just honest mistakes, which honest mistakes happen, especially with when you have, you know, long running series with lots of people involved. But if you're just like ignoring or actively contradicting something, or in a certain infamous case, actively deconstructing the themes of an entire franchise, The Last Jedi, I get a little upset. Anyway, I think I've ranted long enough here.
No, it's fine. I do agree. I think the only way you can successfully write in someone else's universe is if you're a super fan too, because otherwise you're not trying to write that universe. You're trying to do your own thing and shoehorn it into their universe, and that's not fair to fans.
I mean, when I'm writing in the Omniverse, and I've written a short story and a novella, neither have been released yet. One of them is in the new anthology, is up for pre-order. You know, I've obviously, my stuff is written with my author voice. But even though I'm writing with my own author voice, I am trying to be as respectful as possible to the, you know, the integrity of what David has created, because it's a complex, beautiful, wonderful thing that he's created with the Omniverse.
Okay. So as we bring this puppy to a close, this is the part, dear listener, where I remind you to please be kind and speak your mind on the reviewing platforms. Your reviews help the right readers find the right books, and it really does matter. And with that out of the way, Jacob, how can listeners and viewers at home find you on the wild, wild interwebs?
So, got a bunch of books on Audible. just search for Jacob Holo. Got a bunch of books on Amazon. Just search for Jacob Holo. Basically, you can find my stuff wherever Bane books are sold.
Okay. And if they buy them, because I know you can buy the ebooks direct from Bane on their website,
Yes.
Are they able to review them there as well, or do they have to go somewhere else?
I
haven't bought directly from you guys.
know,
through Barnes and Noble.
I don't think that there's any way to review them on the Bane website.
Okay.
So I guess if you buy them there, I just please post a review on Amazon or wherever.
Wherever. Yeah. Okay.
Give me a rating. You know, my mother is fond of telling her friends that, you know, because you know she's a supportive mother. She'll like, you know, pass around my latest books. She's just like, if you like it, you know, please, you know, go on to Amazon, give it, you know, 5 stars and a nice review. If you don't like it, please go on to Amazon, give it 5 stars and a nice review. She's a very supportive mother. What can I say?
Okay. And obviously, dear listener, all of the links will be in the show notes. And just so you're full disclosure, they make no bones about it. But when you're interacting with his social media, because he's got his day job where he like messes with particles and stuff, it's Heather running the market or the back end for him. Although if it's a question directly for him, because I've dealt with this when I've asked questions as just a reader, he always is the one that will answer. Heather has in the comments replied, "Let me ask him," and gotten back with you. So if you have questions directly, you know, you can reach him. Can they buy signed copies of your work?
Yes.
Is that through you or through Bane's website?
I'm pretty sure Heather has. We have a store set up.
Okay. And I have this.
You can tell that I just write books. The marketer is.
You are the trained monkey
in the other room.
I got you. All right.
I'm sorry. I'm completely worthless with some of these questions.
No, you were fine. I do know that the website, which I linked to, does have this sale. I just wasn't sure with your Bane books how that worked as far as signed copies of those.
Yeah, we have stock of the books published through Bane. So we basically purchase them at a discount, and so then we can resell them, and we can resell them signed. So I believe our storefront has options for that.
Perfect. And you can find us, dear listener, on our Linktree, linktr.ee, Linktree/Blasters and Blades Podcast. Again, Linktree/Blasters and Blades Podcast, where we link to all the things, the BitChutes, the Rumbles, the YouTube, the TikTok, the Twitters, the Spotify, the Discord, the Blasters and Blades Facebook group and Facebook page. We have our email, blastersandbladespodcast@gmail.com. Again, blastersandbladespodcast@gmail.com for professional purposes only, people. Save the shenanigans from Adam Stabby Stab over there on the Instagram, the Twitter, and the email. You can support the show by going to buymeacoffee.com/author J.R. Handley. Again, buymeacoffee.com/author J.R. Handley. Be sure to put in the comment section that is for the podcast, and I promise I will keep my co-hosts duly caffeinated. They will drink that coffee brand coffee till there pours out of their ears, and then they will swim away on a river of Java goodness. And if you want some of that coffee brand coffee, link is in the show notes. Code is podcast grunts. You get 10% off. We get a little bit of a kickback. It's a win-win. You help keep the lights on, and we greatly appreciate it. And with that, I would like to thank you for spending some of your precious time with us. For my crazy and absentee co-host, I am J.R. Handley, and this was the Blasters and Blades Podcast. We'll be back next week at the same time, where we'll indulge our love of nerd culture, cheesy jokes, and all things that go boom. And with that, thank you for coming on, Jacob. This is always fun. I always enjoy chatting with you. As busy as you are, I know it's sometimes hard to arrange, but I appreciated you coming on.
Thank you for having me.
And with that, we're going to hit the end button. Don't yell.